Hermes Academy. Power of patience, continence, and faith. We teach virtues. All right, first giving honor to our Creator for His word and our ability to understand it. Thank you, Yah. All right, we're looking here at Mark chapter 7, verse 6 through 8. Get on with it quickly. Verse 6 says, go ahead, Turn.
He answered and said unto them, Well hath Isaiah prophesied of you hypocrites.
Okay, he already talking about you hypocrites, so you know this ain't gonna be no easy talk. All right, but we'll hit it with a light hand. Go ahead.
As it is written, This people honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me.
Okay, so now we've heard this a lot of times, but what does it mean? Say honor us with we honor Him, meaning the Father, with our lips, but our heart is far from Him. Okay, how do you know? How can you know how what's going on here? What is he basing this information on? Okay, go ahead to 7.
Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men.
Okay, so teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. See, there are 613 laws in the Bible. Stuff like do not eat pork, do not eat eagles, stuff like honor the Sabbath days, stuff like do not make fires on the Sabbath day, do not cook on the Sabbath day. There's stuff like um, um, if your cow, you have something? If your neighbor's cow gets out and runs in your yard, what do you do about it? If I bring my watch to you and ask you to hold on to my watch and it comes up missing, what do we do about it? There are 613 laws, precepts, judgments, commands, statutes. I mean, all right, commandments. There's all kinds of stuff. Doctrines, teachings. Okay, but what is he saying here? He's saying, howbeit, you know, in vain do we worship Him. You know, we're doing it for the show of it, and then comma teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. Okay, so what he's saying is we ain't really teaching His laws, His doctrines. We're teaching those that men talk about, right? Stuff like what are some of the laws and rules? Like you got to go to church, you got to pay, money in church. You got to not drink and smoke and gamble and play loud music and wear your clothes too short or wear them too long, have your head covered or uncovered. Just a bunch of rules that man have come up with over time that we've come to learn to treat as if it were the Lord's doctrine. But when you search the scripture, you're not going to find a whole lot of this stuff. There's a whole lot that we learn in church that when you actually go to the word and say, okay, well, show me, you can't see it. It ain't there to be seen. All right? So we're teaching the doctrines, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. All right, go ahead.
For laying aside the commandment of God, ye hold the tradition of men, as the washing of pots and cups, and many other such like things ye do.
See, that's what they did back then. Was they was washing the hands before they ate. It was a tradition of the Pharisees to wash their hands before they ate. That's a good tradition, right? But they've come to learn to treat it as if it was found in the scripture somewhere, as if it was a commandment of the Bible that says you have to wash, and it's not. Nowhere in the scripture does it tell you to wash your hands before you eat. But that was way back then. Think of all of the ones we've made up now. Okay, so you say, well, where are these commandments of the Lord that we speak of? Well, to get to those, you have to go to, several places. There's in Deuteronomy. There's some listed in Leviticus. Not, there, a lot of them get repeated over and over. When you separate them, it comes up to 613 in the first 5 books of the Bible, and then there are more. All right, here are a main part of the commandments. This has a huge swath. This has a huge swath of the commandments, and it has the most important ones in it. And I'm gonna tell you why. It's not, look right here. You see where it starts off with the 10 commandments, but that's not why I say it's the most important. The reason why it's the most important, in my humble opinion, ain't nobody written that this was the most important place to get the quick version of the law. You got to get the rest of them. You just got to get them in other places. But like if you want a quick stab at it, it's because of what goes on down here in verse 7. He says, and verse 7 of Exodus chapter 24 says, and he took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people, and they said, all that the Lord has said will we do, and be obedient. Okay, now let's slow down here, because look right there. He's saying the book of the covenant. What we have the end of right here in chapter 24 is the end of the book of the covenant, and what we had in chapter 20 was the beginning of the book of the covenant. Right? And he says, and everybody said, so shall we do, and be obedient. Okay, those were our forefathers. That was, our great granddaddies. I don't want to count the greats because we'll be greating for a long time, but them was our forefathers who stood there at the bottom of that mountain and agreed to follow these commandments, starting here in 20. All right, y'all, just want to share that with you. Be wise. Go ahead and pick up the book of the covenant. Start reading it. It's Exodus 20 through the first 7 verses of chapter 24. Get familiarize yourself with them. You'll find out that it's not anything spectacular or big. It's just stuff we're not really aware of because our church leaders aren't really teaching us this stuff. So but you can read it for yourself. The Lord had a plan that says we would have this book that we can pick it up and read it. Most people have it in their home, or you can get to it online. But pick it up for yourself, read for yourself. The book of the covenant. Get a righteousness as according to the Lord's righteousness. Well, that's that on that. Hermes Academy. Power, patience, continence, and faith. We teach virtue.